Thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Wilson.
And I'm Chris Ehmke.
And this is Diesel Performance Podcast. Chris, coming off a couple of killer weeks here over at Duramax Tuner, you still alive over there?
I'm good. I'm breathing. Yeah. We've had, another successful March Madness sale. Kind of align it right around tax season, right? People start getting some income tax checks back and whatnot. And what better way to do it than to modify their diesel pickup?
You ain't lying, man. Yeah, spring super sale in full swing. Guys, by the time you're hearing this, it will have just been over.
Sale's over.
It was fast paced, and it feels like it's over too quickly. Don't worry though, we still got some great things going on. Calibrated Power, DuramaxTuner.com. Check it out. Get something for yourself. You also can look at some of our other sponsors for the show: Exergy, WC Fab, XDP. All teams that we work with to help make the show better and help just kind of overall benefit the diesel community.
Yeah. For today, talking about benefiting the diesel community, something that you and I have been talking about. It's a big topic over at Calibrated Power, and it's actually on an older platform.
Yeah, man. Chris, I remember back in 2013, we would get calls of guys all the time saying, hey, I just want to put my LBZ 6-speed trans in an LB7. Yeah. It was extremely common, and so many discussions over, no, it doesn't fit. No, it won't bolt up. No, the controllers won't work. No, this is a bad idea. How many Allison swaps have you seen, like Frankenstein trucks that have an Allison crammed into it?
A good amount.
Any of them ever really impress you with how they shifted?
No. So for the new listeners, for the guys that aren't very seasoned in the diesel arena, in the year model of 01 to 05, the Allison 1000 came out of the factory as a 5-speed, so 5 gears.
Yep.
In the 06 all the way through 2019, they've had a 6-speed, and it has a double overdrive. So you get a 6th gear, it's another overdrive gear. So it was very common, we've seen in the early 2010s, we would deal with it at the shop, and guys would call in exactly that. They drove a 6-speed truck. They liked the way the 6-speed drove. They wanted to incorporate that 6th gear into, an older 5-speed truck. And at that time, there really wasn't a lot out there understanding of what was what, right? Like, at that point, I had thought that, there's one less gear in the trans, right? And there's other companies. We're not the first to come out with a solution like this. There are other companies, Suncoast. They've been in the market space for a decent amount of time with a different style product, but nonetheless, it adds that 6th gear. So here we are in the year of 2023, and we offer a program or a kit that will take an 01 to 05 truck. No, you don't have to swap a bell housing. No, you don't have to swap a trans. But you are going to swap a valve body, and you are going to swap a transmission control module. That's all plug and play. And it takes that 01 to 05 truck into a newer, modern feel of an 06 to 19 truck. Yeah,
so this one, I'll be honest, it took me a long time to really get my head around this when this one was in R&D. First of all, I had to get it out of my head that there were physical gears. When I picture the inside of a trans, having never looked at one, so before any of my time of learning anything about trucks, I would picture a transmission gears as actual physical cogs, actual gears inside of this big tunnel-looking metal piece, and that different gears would be enacted or something would roll against those different gears or cog sets, and that's what would create different gear ratios. So the engine speed would be at 1, my wheel speed would be at 3, right? So whatever your gear ratio is. Then learning that there's actually just a bunch of clutches and steel plates, just discs inside of the trans, and that they use hydraulic pressure to push those different plates together to create different gear ratios, and that's what creates your gears, right? So gear is just gear ratio, really. And going into those different gears happens by fluid being hydraulically pushed through the valve body, pushing different clutch packs together. So these clutches come in a pack of clutches, and it'll push different clutches together to create the proper gear ratio. And that's the most simplified way I could explain an automatic transmission.
I don't think I could have simplified it any better than that. So
I had to break it down to dum-dum level so I could get it. Yeah.
So the difference between, and there's little intricate things, right?
Right.
So for the more advanced guys that are listening to this, please don't challenge us. We don't care that much, right? Where this is a basic overview.
No.
okay?
Hit me at it. Send those emails to cehmke@duramaxtuner.com. Let me know why I was wrong.
Paul, I'll burn you. But it's crazy to think that an 01 to 05 trans versus like an 06 to 10 trans is literally a valve body, and it all has to do with how fluid is pushed through different canals to allow this to take place.
That's it.
That it's no longer oh man, there's an added gear in this thing, and it's a reconstruction of the transmission. Now, what I do get a lot of times guys ask about is, well, why can't I just swap an LBZ trans in? Why can't I just swap an LMM trans in? Why can't I put one of those newer 6-speed transmissions into my older truck?
I'd have to learn less if I could do that.
Right. So one of the things that we see is well, for one, the harnesses are different.
Yep.
Okay. What makes doing a conversion kit kind of like that preferred method is you're able to use your factory harness. You're able to use an AL5 factory style trans control module to make this plug and play. For you to have to swap a newer style 6-speed trans, you're now having to swap a harness. Mm-hmm. You're having to swap a controller. And when you swap the controller, those CAN bus don't communicate with the rest of the computers in the truck. So you actually lose like your dash function.
Yeah.
Like you are, even though it's an Allison from a newer truck and it's an Allison replacing an Allison, the systems do not communicate, and you are going to lose those functionalities of what the truck came from the factory as. And it's going to feel more of like a swapped project instead of a refined feel.
Yeah. So one of the big things that happens with the Duramax ECM and the Allison TCM is there's communication back and forth. There's inputs and outputs, right? So monitoring, the temperatures, the safety features that are built into
vehicle
this.
speed, your speedometer, like these are things that just do not work.
Right.
Trans temp on the dash, like you lose the functionality when you have to swap that, or you're going to be spending a lot of money in order to make that stuff function and operate accordingly again.
Yeah. And then also, I think you hit on it before, bell housings.
Yeah.
So just bolting up, it's not the same.
They bolt up.
Yes. Well, I thought they don't fit.
They bolt up. You can bolt up. Like you can bolt up the trans.
Okay.
You can bolt up the trans. The electronics are what's different.
Okay.
So there's different speed sensors. There are different things in that capacity, but you could, I'm like 99% certain you can
It'll
bolt
physically
up the trans.
fit
yes.
all the way through. Okay. My bad.
So
learn something new every day.
Nonetheless, then you got to get careful. You'd be the guy in the shop putting a 5-speed in a 6-speed truck.
Yeah, sure. It bolts up. Plug it in and run this bitch.
If it fits, it ships.
Yeah,
right?
that's
the saying.
That's how I got 2 kids.
Wow. Okay. So you're comparing your kids to transmissions. I like it.
Shit, if they only work that hard. They're little. We'll give them time. All right, but anyways, okay. Okay, so you're saying it'll bolt up. Electronics are a nightmare.
Yep.
Communication back and forth is a nightmare. It's challenging. So we swap out the valve body. We get a 6 gear. So that means that I'm going to get 30 miles to the gallon now, correct?
Oh, absolutely. 40 if you're lucky.
40, right.
Yeah,
right.
why not? I mean, realistically, we get a lot of these guys that call in and what's the benefit? Am I going to be able to put a 6-speed conversion into my 5-speed trans and now it's stronger?
Yep.
Well, no. Am I going to be able to put the 6-speed into my truck and it's going to be faster? Well, probably not necessarily. The idea of the 6 gear in one of these trucks is what I would consider refinement. Okay. Go take a 5-speed truck out and go 70 mile an hour down the road, and then go take a 6-speed truck out and do 70 mile an hour down the road. And I don't have to explain myself when I say refinement anymore. It's crazy to think, coming from, the old era of the Dodges that I used to play with the 3-speed trans, 60 mile an hour tapped going down the highway.
Right. Screaming.
Ours. Then a 4-speed comes out with overdrive. Like that changed the game to now, like, the 15 Ram, with the 68 RFE, I could cruise 80, 85 mile an hour at 18 to 2000 RPM, So it's crazy to see how much faster you can go while still maintaining a desired RPM window. And the truck doesn't feel aggressive in getting into that vehicle speed.
Yeah.
So that's where the 5 to 6 speed stuff is really going to shine.
I think you hit on something that was really good there too. So does it make it stronger?
Yeah.
a lot of guys think that like, well, the 6-speeds can handle more horsepower and torque.
Right.
Therefore, if I do the 6-speed conversion, my trans will be able to handle more power and torque.
When in reality, the 5-speed and the AL5 controller has a more stringent limp mode strategy to where once you see slippage in the C3s, that's where that comes into play. That's usually your 4th to 5th gear ratio.
I've heard there's differences between the C3 clutch pack in the 5-speed and the 6-speed. Any fact or myth on that?
I don't know. I mean, that would be a question to ask the trans guy, a DJ in the shop, but from my understanding, they run the same amount of clutches and steels in those transmissions.
Okay.
But that's a question we should have prepared. We're going to have a follow-up and ask him that question.
Yeah. Hit us up. If you are a trans builder, hit us up on Fans of Diesel Performance Podcast Facebook group. Let us know. Call us out. I dare you.
Paul out. Paul at DuramaxTuner.com, you know?
But yeah, okay, so there is this idea that like, oh, I'm going to put this 6-speed conversion in, it'll handle more power.
I just remember this, okay?
Go ahead.
Just Anthony, one of the sales guys over at Calibrated Power. You remember his 03 LB7 that he had?
The green truck.
There was some green left on it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
The green and rust color. Right.
The orange and green. The pumpkin-looking LB7.
Right.
I remember that truck was rough, right? Like everyone in this office right now, like it was a rough truck. I remember going down the road, and LB7s are probably the loudest, crackliest, obnoxious truck out of the Duramax lineup. I remember going to get lunch with him one day, and he had a 6-speed. We actually did a 6-speed drive ride along in that truck at one point.
Yeah.
There's got to be some archives on it somewhere. And I remember going down the road doing 70. I'm like, damn, this thing drives nice. This thing drives really nice.
The bed might rattle off,
you know,
but it drives nice.
But it's crazy the difference between cruising at 2200 RPM versus 1900 RPM, maintaining that same speed.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys who get the best benefit out of it, it is a 14% RPM reduction.
Yeah.
So guys who get the best benefit out of it are usually guys who are cruising for long periods of time on 2-lane highways.
I always say highway and back roads, man.
Yeah.
If you drive the truck that way, that's going to benefit you.
If you could do 60 miles an hour, like you said, at 2200 RPM normally, and then you install something to do that same 60 miles an hour, but you're only doing it at 1800 RPM, that's a 400 RPM reduction. That's fuel.
Yeah.
That's you're using less fuel to do the same job. That's what it comes down to.
That's less fuel. That's less wear and tear. Think of that RPM drop.
Yeah.
That's that less that the engine has to spin.
Less
right?
heat.
That's less heat. That's less velocity in the turbocharger. Everything about the engine is going to be happier dropping that RPM to maintain that speed.
The one thing you're going to give up is the loud noise that your truck makes at 2200 RPM.
But you can
because
still
it's going
make
to be
it
a little
loud.
quiet.
You just go faster. Speed harder.
Good advice. Good, solid
to any
advice.
Guy out there with a 5-speed Allison and you want to do the conversion kit and you got to get the old lady on board, just tell her, babe, we're going to have an honest conversation going on the highway and we'll be able to hear each other.
Right.
Sold. Game over. Game over.
I'll be able to listen to your story about your friends at work.
Yeah. On second thought, I'm keeping the 5-speed.
No, but it is. It's one of those. It's a product that honestly, when we first launched it in 19, I want to say roughly 18, 19, somewhere in there. 18 or 19, we launched a 6-speed conversion kit. I remember telling Nick like, "Hey, I was in marketing at the time, and I'm like, hey man, I'll do everything on the marketing side that we do for all of our product launches. Like we'll run the whole gamut. But I just don't want you to think that this is going to be a game changer. My guess is these are older trucks. These guys probably aren't going to make this investment. There's probably other power things that these guys are going to go after more. And I have never eaten so much fucking crow in my life. I'll be honest with you. I've been wrong about shit, but I've never been that wrong about anything else.
But not that wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm usually wrong.
I mean,
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to agree to that. Those are your words.
But I don't know if anybody in that time would have thought, even in 18 and 19 when that product first launched, and we'll take COVID out of the equation and all that, because COVID was crazy for a lot of different things. It is insane to me how many guys wanted to retrofit their trucks.
Yeah.
It became a very popular product, and still to this day, it's astonishing, how many guys bite the bullet and do a conversion kit. It's also astonishing to me to see how many stock 5-speed transmission trucks are still on the road.
There's the mystery to me. What have you been doing with your truck?
I want to know.
Whose grandma has been driving your truck all this time that it's still together?
This is what I'm going to do. If we have a listener that has a 5-speed truck, LB7 or LLY, and it's been in the family since new, and it still has a 5-speed, and the truck is tuned, and the truck runs very, very good, very strong, we want to hear from you. We want to talk about maintenance. We want to talk about what did you do over the last 20 effing years of truck life to keep that original trans happy? Because phone calls at the shop tell me otherwise, that they don't stay together. So we want to hear from you guys. That would be super insightful of, hey, what's what?
I remember first time I did a switch install on an LB7.
Yeah.
I go out. It should be about a 10, 20-minute job. Yeah. So like 2.5 hours later, I go in and I tell the customer, hey, it's all done.
You're super mechanically inclined.
Truck's ready to roll, bro. Yeah. Mechanic number 1, Paul, worked on it. And I remember Nick or Bob, one of the guys here pulled me to the side and they're like, hey, you need to make sure you go on that test drive with them because I almost guarantee they're going to limp the trans. Yep. And it's a young guy at the time. He's probably like 22, 23. It's his first diesel truck. It's his first tune. He's super, super excited. Yep. And they're like, you need to go with because that truck's almost guaranteed to be in limp mode in about 2 minutes. And sure as shit, we turn the corner. We're in town. He stamps it. I'm like, well, let's it's in tune 1. Like, let's just take it easy until we get to the back roads. And like, I'll let you know where you can roll on it. Cause like there's a big difference of rolling on these trucks off the line or like brake torquing it or something compared to like a 30 roll and stabbing it. So we get out, and I'm like, yeah, you probably don't want to be in tune 5 and do a 30 roll and stab it. You're going to get into that 4-5 upshift, or if you're in 5th and you stab it hard and it's going to do the 5-4 downshift, like it's probably where it's going to go into limp mode. He's like, limp mode, what's that? We're doing about 40 miles an hour. He says, limp mode, what's that? And just his foot as hard as he could on that. I mean, I thought he was going to put it to the ground, man.
And then the thing got to 70, and that was it.
And it was in limp mode pretty quick. So like, I just having to deal with it and talk to him about it. I'm like, he's like, oh man, is it broke? I'm like, well, I've been talking about limp mode for the last like 5 minutes that we've been getting to here. He's like, yeah, but I was really excited for the tunes. And I'm like, yeah, I think we've said it all.
I think we've ran into a couple times with guys over the years. We talk about stock trans safe, built trans, right? And we'll get those guys every so often, 200, 250K on the truck, stock trans, put the truck in race tune, no relearn, goes flat foots it, 70, 80 mile an hour, trans goes into 5th gear, limp mode. But you told me it was stock trans safe. Yeah, if the trans was new, like we're talking a $200,000 truck that I don't know the history, you don't know the history, right? All these different things, but they have a different feel all on their own though, those trucks.
They do. Now, I will say this, 6-speed conversion kit, one of the other reasons I was rather skeptical of its success that I've been proven wrong on was the installation.
It's like music to my ears.
I know. I'm doing it for you, bro. I'm doing it for you.
The installation was super simple.
It is if you're not intimidated by opening up the trans at all.
Like, so let me ask you, right, as you're in the industry, right?
Sure.
But you do tinker and work on stuff on the side yourself. Sure. Dropping the pan and draining the trans fluid, that is something, does that really intimidate you?
Yes.
Okay.
The minute I'm touching the valve body and the connectors and like, I would not do it myself. Now that's me and my level of comfort with wrenching on vehicles.
Understandable.
If you're a guy who swaps turbos and you've pulled a trans,
it's a no-brainer. It's nothing.
This is like
if you're a guy,
level 1, level 2 job.
If you're a guy that does your own maintenance and you do your own, simple service and maintenance on a vehicle, this is something
you would never let the guy at AutoZone put your windshield wipers on. You probably can do this, right? I'm just laughing. It really was raining one time, and I had a guy at AutoZone offer to put them on, and I turned around and looked outside at the rain, and I said, "Go for it!"
Wow.
And I promise you, I had to go out and finish the job.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's like kind of like an alpha male thing. Like, no, don't fucking touch my vehicle. Put my windshield wipers on.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah, dude, go do it.
Yeah, it's pouring cats and dogs. I'm like, yeah, dude, go for it.
Did he fill up your blinker fluid too?
I would have paid him to try. I feel like I could have sold him on trying to sell me blinker fluid.
I think the reason the job didn't get done was he was putting 4-wheel drive wipers on a 2-wheel drive truck.
You got me. You got me.
That's how that goes.
But I do laugh about having to do the job, because if you're at home and you're on a creeper in your garage and you're comfortable with this stuff, it's not a big deal at all. If you live in an apartment building and you're going to do it out in the parking lot,
I've had those customers.
it totally
Had those
happens.
Customers.
Totally happens.
And they do it in quicker time than I could.
I was
on
just
a
gonna
lift
say-
with the tools. So,
like you could get by, but it has gotten to the point that we've gone and built transmissions where now you actually have upgraded clutch packs and steels, and you have a better torque converter, and you have all of the bells and whistles. You have everything's been included in the trans. You can already buy your LB7 or LLY trans to just come with the 6-speed conversion kit in it. So you literally pull your old trans out, bolt the new one in. You're done.
All the modern stuff, all the tech, it's all there.
And that's the way I would do it. If I was going to get into this, just to be honest with you, because it's $18.50. Excuse me, it's $18.50 for a 6-speed conversion kit.
$18.75.
$18.75. I know prices. Don't correct me. Son of a bitch. But yeah, okay. So it's $18.75. It's an investment.
That is.
You know, I mean, you're saying I'm going to keep this truck for a while.
Yeah,
like
no,
I'm going to work this off.
Though a modification like that is purely a luxury, not a necessity. But I would say, how many other modifications can you do to one of these trucks where if you break it down, it could eventually pay for itself?
None. The answer's I've tried to run the math. I actually helped build the conversion kit calculator.
That's why it doesn't work.
It works perfectly, you motherfucker. It works.
I just got to throw shade
flawlessly.
No,
How dare you? Flawlessly.
Admit it. That's a lie. That's a lie.
Anything that doesn't work, Nick did. All the shit I built worked fine. Anyways, we actually do have a conversion kit calculator that if you know the cost of fuel and you know how many miles you're going to drive, you can go through and figure out how long will it take to pay itself off. It's usually about a year and a half for most guys if they're driving the truck often. You know, that's what it'll take to get your money back out of it. But if you do that with tuning, your best case scenario with tuning, you maybe pick up 3 miles to the gallon.
I've had some guys, man. I've had some guys where, you know, their bone stock trucks are averaging like, you know, on the highway, you know, 16, 17.
Yeah.
And we're able to get, you know, into the 21, sometimes even 22. It gets choppy depending on vehicle speed. I've had guys say that they're getting 28, 29. Like I've had those guys. I'll never call those guys a liar, right? Like I'm not here to be accusatory and point fingers. It's just not what we've seen. You know, it's not what we've seen. That's all.
You're such a fucking liar. I've heard you call them liars, you motherfucker. Okay, no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Okay, but it is rare for somebody to be able to get their investment back out of tuning and fuel mileage, and there's certainly I've never sold somebody on a turbo based on improving their fuel mileage enough to pay for itself.
No.
So there, like you mentioned, there's very
you buy
few
turbos,
and far between.
You buy turbos for sound.
Yeah.
Okay, because you want to hear the sound out the pipe.
I can feel my blood pressure rising.
You do tuners because you want to help the throttle response. And if you pick up mileage, cool. But if you pick up some towing power, awesome. And you do conversion kits. You do conversion kits for the mileage. It's all for the mileage.
It's all for the mileage.
It's for the mileage.
I love that. Well, we just named today's episodes. Chris, that's all I can think of to say about 6-speed conversion kits. It's really for the guy who puts a lot of miles on his truck and is looking to keep it for a while. It's a no-brainer of an investment.
It's all for the mileage.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, guys, for today, this has been Paul Wilson.
And I'm Chris.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us today, guys. This has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Ehmke.
Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
If it fits, it ships.
Yeah,
right?
that's
That's the saying.
That's how I got 2 kids.